In some ways, like everything that has been a foundation is falling apart in order for something new to emerge. The COVID thing that we went through collectively for the past 2 years was like a collective cocooning, in a sense, where we're forced to confront things that are uncomfortable, things that bring up fear, that bring up our sense of despair and hopelessness, in order to, who knows what, in order to what? But in order for the caterpillar to somehow move towards its fulfillment as a butterfly, or the human caterpillar to move towards the human butterfly.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jason back again, and I'm delighted this evening. I've got a wonderful guest again on my show after many years. It's Kiara Windrider. Kiara, thanks for joining me again after all these years.
Oh, what a blessed occasion, Jason. It's really wonderful to reconnect. I don't know, 8-9 years
Something
later,
like that.
and yet
like
forever, in each other's hearts.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm going to show your website here, Kiara. There we go. So Kiara Windrider, Journey into Forever. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Kiara's in India currently. I love your website. I'm here to help support the emergence of the new Earth. How do we transform conditions on this planet so we can experience the beauty and wonder of being fully present, fully alive? This website is about bringing people together, resources, information, and tools required to inspire us on this journey of awakening. What an amazing thing. And there's all your podcasts and shows there with people. Wonderful, wonderful website there. And that there, I just almost forgotten about you spoke about it, the emergence of, I can't even pronounce
Ilahi.
Yes, yeah, the divine light, yeah?
Yeah, that's from the Sufi. It's a Sufi term, actually.
Yeah.
So that unified light beyond all dualities.
So I was going to, there's so much to talk to you about, Kiara. What a time to be here. My gosh, what a
extraordinary.
Time it's extraordinary. It's almost like, with the COVID thing and everything coming in, it's almost like accelerated or magnified the imbalances in the world and the corruption, and it's also accelerated and magnified our quickening and our I don't necessarily like the word awakening, but it's like accelerating our homecoming back towards ourselves. It's almost forcing humanity home. What's going on? Tell us what you feel about what's going on, Kiara.
Well, quickening is a good term because it's like, it's referring to an amplification and intensification of the descent of soul. And it's a vibrational shift, it's a frequency shift. And there's so many aspects to it. It's like, where do we begin? Because, we talk about all these ancient calendar systems and cycles of time. We talk about solar events and galactic events. We talk about magnetic reversals. We talk about collective human consciousness that's rising. But it's all, I think it's all connected together somehow in a way that's still a mystery to me. And the more I try and pin it down, it's easy to gather information, but to really feel it bearing fruit inside ourselves and feel that actual quickening take place within ourselves as we prepare for this event or series of events as we move into a new age, a planetary age. It's extraordinary. That's why it's like, it's hard to define it as something because it's not outside of ourselves, for one thing, and it's not limited to what we can imagine. We're simply being channels for something greater than ourselves, for universal consciousness to be reborn through us. So I feel like, that's what makes us extraordinary. And like you said, there's both aspects. There's an amplification of the dark side, which is intensifying as we see this all the way through in political events and socioeconomic events, and in what, I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about this.
Anything, say
On
anything you want.
YouTube. It's not on YouTube anymore. Okay, so let's
No, I'm
mention.
banned. We're all banned, aren't we?
Okay, so the C word, the COVID thing, and I think there's different sides to that as well. On the one hand, it's been a conspiracy to control human consciousness and AI, to be able to infiltrate into our human organic systems. But also at the same time, it's like any virus or associated AI aspects. They can only go as far as they're allowed to go. And I feel like underneath all of that and embracing all of that and beyond all of this, there's a divine plan that's going to use everything that's being offered, including the dark, in order to raise us into the next level of consciousness. So I think it's this whole idea of contrast being the awakener. It's not about, following the good or following one side of it only, because as soon as we do so, our perspective gets skewed. It's being able to reflect whatever's going on in a way that we can maintain a balance and see the big picture, and then be channels for the unified light. So when we talked about Ilahinur as that unified light, it comes from beyond this world of opposites. And the way we're conditioned as the human caterpillar is to think in terms of opposites. So this is good, this is bad, this is positive, this is negative. Even in terms of time, this is past, this is future, this is matter, this is spirit, this is, positive timeline and negative timeline. Whatever we talk about, it's become our habit, it's become a conditioning to divide it up in consciousness as negative and positive. And I think what all this is leading towards is to bypass that whole polarity, which in third dimension becomes duality, which is what keeps us from really penetrating into the heart of the mystery and discovering that there's something so beautiful and powerful in spite of everything. So I think of Pandora's box. The last couple of years I was doing a weekly podcast called Pandora's Box. Actually, it was called The Age of Pandora. But based on this idea that, this, the Greek myth goes back to this, the gods giving this maiden a beautiful golden box and asking her never to open it. Well, what kind of, temptation is that? So, of course, she opens it, and out comes all these human ills pouring out into the world, all the suffering and oppression and greed and hatred and domination and fear. And then at the bottom, after she steps back in horror at what she's unfurled into this world, she shuts it immediately over, the only thing that's remaining, which is hope. And I think our journey now is to open up that box again, to rediscover what hope really means. It's not just hopium, where we are doing some kind of wishful thinking of what we might become, crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. It's really something else. It's really alignment with the big picture, understanding what this big picture is about, and then collectively moving towards that. It's really not even moving towards something, it's letting go of the veils that hold us back from our own self-discovery. And so that's what, I think this is the journey. So like we said, the caterpillar is moving towards a new incarnation as a butterfly, but in between, it's got to go through this tight, walled, confined, brutal cocoon, where everything seems to be, different from what we imagined. We're no longer able to identify with what we used to. We're no longer able to be comfortable with the past. Many of us are going through this. It's like, I don't know what the hell I'm here on this earth for anymore. Everything that I've identified with, everything that's meant something to me, everything I've done and accomplished and written and spoken about and researched, it's like nothing makes sense anymore. And it's not meant to. In some way, it's like everything that has been a foundation is falling apart in order for something new to emerge without having to filter through the mind or even filter through our understanding of reality. So I think that's the stage that and the COVID, the COVID thing that we went through collectively for the past 2 years was like a collective cocooning, in a sense, where we're forced to confront things that are uncomfortable, things that bring up fear, that bring up our sense of despair and hopelessness, in order to, who knows what, in order to what? But in order for the caterpillar to somehow move towards its fulfillment as a butterfly, or the human caterpillar to move towards the human butterfly. In fact, I remember, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, being in England, visiting some of the crop circles.
That's probably when I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was one of those times.
I first, just a quick thing, don't forget what you're going to say. I met you in a field of hemp.
Yes, that was Gavin.
Yeah, and
who introduced us.
Someone was making some kombucha drinks or something. It was a very surreal setting to meet you.
Right, and we walked through this field of hemp, and then at the end of it, I think he had a juicer, and we had this beautiful, wonderful hemp juice, which was very refreshing and motivating.
Yeah.
And and that, immediately I think we just hit it off. And
I'm sorry to have stopped you there. I'm sorry I stopped you, but I couldn't resist saying that. But so you came across to see crop circles and everything. Go on.
Yeah, so I think this was the first time that I came to actually experience the crop circles. I was with a group of people, and we had this idea that the crop circles are not separate from our own consciousness. Whoever the makers are, whether it's an aspect of Gaia herself, whether it's ETs, whether it's the collective human consciousness, whether it's nature spirits that are involved, or all of it, or a combination of it, or as Tyler Desjardins talks about, is the noosphere, which is the mental consciousness of the earth, or the Buddhic aspect of Mother Earth. So it's like, this is the noosphere. He identifies with the layer of the ionosphere, surrounding the atmosphere of the earth. And I don't remember who it was, but there was a book. I met somebody in England who wrote a book about this, forget his name, but he speaks about how plasma from these ionospheric layers it's like water holds an imprint of memories of the past. And those memories can be accessed. And plasma being held within the ionosphere, within the noosphere, can become impregnated with information or consciousness, which can then be imprinted upon the earth wherever there's water beneath the earth. So water serves as a conductor for this plasma, and this plasma then moves like ball lightning, and it has consciousness, and within a matter of seconds it creates these crop circles. So these crop circles, in some cases at least, are like a reflection of memories or information fields that instantly become manifested in the fields. And so we thought, okay, if this is true, let's just hold a unified intention to receive a symbol of our awakening consciousness as a crop circle. And so we went into meditation, and then next morning I was expecting, okay, let's see what happens. Is there reports of something? And I didn't see anything in the news for a while. And then later I found a Nexus magazine, which had the imprint of a human butterfly, a literal human butterfly in the fields. It wasn't in that area. It was in Oxford or someplace further out. But it was exactly what we had held in our group consciousness, like a symbol for what human awakening would look like. So here's this human butterfly emerging in the fields. And so it showed me two things. One is that, yes, our collective human consciousness is related to these crop circles, to this informational field, to the noosphere. It's like, we are one with the earth in terms of our intention, in terms of being able to connect somehow with Gaia and her intention and her evolutionary movement. And the other was that we're all linked together in this. It's not just one aspect of Gaia. It's the nature spirit, it's the water elements, it's all the elements, it's it's all the different bodies of the earth. Just like we have many bodies interrelated, interspersed with each other, so does Mother Earth. So we have the physical, etheric, mental, emotional, soul bodies of the earth interacting with our own, and all the species of life on this planet and beyond. And all of this reflects through the noosphere into some form of manifestation across dimensions. And I think this is symbolically what we're moving through as we come into that butterfly phase. I feel like the next few years, everyone talks about times, and there's been endless dates being given from 2012 and, all the way before and after, and who knows when, because all this is linear time. But I feel like it's a process, and there's going to be certain events along the way as we move from one age to another. And the Hindus talk about the movement from Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga and Treta Yuga and Satya Yuga. Other systems, Greeks have their own system, the Egyptians have their own system, and Tibetans have their own system, the Incas have their own system, and they all kind of match and, kind of follow the same path, from an age of light into an age of darkness, return to an age of light. Some relate this, actually, there's this the researcher Walter Cruttenden, and this is fascinating. What he was saying is that these ages have to do with the journey of our sun around its twin star. He thinks it could be Sirius. So, okay, so here we have our sun and Sirius, or whatever the twin star would be, and they're moving around each other as they move through galactic space around the center of our galaxy. So it takes our sun, about, I don't remember, some 200 million plus minus years to actually move all the way across the galaxy to its original point. But while it's making those movements, the Sirius and our sun are traveling around each other. When our sun is closer to the galactic center, we're going through an age of light. When our sun is further away from the galactic center, it's an age of darkness. And, it's all through epicycles, and the reason that the ages of light last longer is because there's like a slingshot effect as our sun moves towards the galactic center, and then it slows down as it moves back further out. So right now we're going through this transition, what some call the cusp of an age. Some talk about astrological ages, from Pisces to an Aquarian age. But ultimately, we're moving out of an age of darkness, an age of inertia and density, where we've been locked into third dimensional realities. Our consciousness has become encased um, in this prison of perception, where we experience ourselves as separate from each other, where we experience ourselves as limited, where we experience ourselves as somehow competing with others and with the earth for our own survival, rather than being, absolutely beautiful, creative, unlimited, divine presence manifesting through multiple selves, all being reflected within the one, which is what we look at when we look into a mirror. But that has been kind of, diluted into this idea that we are somehow separate. That's part of the Kali Yuga. And as we move out of this, inevitably and spontaneously, we're all going through this phase of reawakening. But that's what makes it so difficult as well, because we're competing against something that's been subconsciously ingrained in our collective consciousness. And to break out of that imprisonment, to break out of that conditioning, takes a lot of effort. And we've somehow become used to the idea of a security having to do with the known, having to do with, this happens in family dynamics too. What's safe is what's known, even though it may be abusive, even though it may be, not so nice. Same thing in human relationships. We stay on in relationships too long sometimes because that's what we know. That's all we know. And we're afraid to go out on our own. We're afraid of the new. We're afraid of surrendering and letting go to something beyond and bigger than what we've become used to. So humanity as a whole is going through this phase now. And I think this whole COVID period was like, okay, this is what we've known as the caterpillar. Munching on fields of grass and being under the sun, basking in the comfort of what's known. But now it's like, the confining cocoon is coming to get us, and we don't know where to go. We're being turned into mushy soup. Literally, that's what happens inside a cocoon. And that mush, it's like what we're seeing in geopolitical events. The deep state has really been working hard to turn our brains and our bodies and our lives into mush. It's like, and that's also what forces us then to awaken. It's pushing us against the wall so brutally that there's no further place to go back. What do you think?
I don't want to do any. I'm just enjoying listening to you, Kiara. I'm going into this beautiful sort of meditative state. It's lovely listening to you, Kiara. Honestly, thank you so much for your wisdom and your wonderful thoughts. There, it's lovely, honestly, and you're working, doing great work to help people. You're helping people come home. You help holding people's hands through the eye of the storm, but I love those things you said, and like that death, the dissolving of the old thing. I've been with people, I know I say this too much on this program, but it's very, very important. I feel I've been with people who are dying, my own family, my own father. And there was a chap called Stephen, I think it was Stephen Levine. He used to work with Ram Dass.
Right.
They used to work with people who were dying, and in
Who
essence,
dies?
Who dies? Yeah, that was a great book. And he used to help people. You could say he helped them settle into the death and ease them over, if you like. But there's a sort of familiar traits with most people who pass or leave their spacesuits. Yeah, is that those few the short period before they leave. And I saw it with my father, is like, I can remember him saying, so beautiful.
Mm.
Everything's so beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I believe that is, and we can talk about that in a minute, is that just making another note, yeah, is that everything's stripped away. My father was
Yes.
he was in a baby's nappy. He had his teeth out.
Mm.
He was very skinny. He you know, his hair was sticking up. So everything's gone. Your name, your race, your color, your religion, even
Your memories.
your memories, your future, your
Mm.
past. There's only now this all-encompassing moment. And I truly believe, and I've talked about this a lot in my book, is that that thing that we often only experience just before death, that it's here all the time, right? What a tragedy. We could be feeling that, we could be feeling, getting glimpses and whiffs of that amazing, magnificent beauty right here now. But of course, like you were saying, we're running so fast. But I feel that's what's happened with this COVID thing as well. It's almost it's a death of the old. So in one sense, they forced us to lock down, but in another sense, I think they helped to bring us more towards ourselves. Of course, it wasn't good for everybody because people had to reassess who they were, their lives, their loved ones, and what they thought, and to actually stay still and not do anything for a lot of people is hell, you know, because they got to face themselves and who they are, who they've been, what they're thinking. I was speaking in the gallery today with someone about that. She couldn't still her mind. And I said, well, you're not your mind. And you can prove that by pulling away from your mind and watching your mind, which means you're not yet exclusively your mind. But I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but yeah, like you said, I'm just going over what you said really about dividing things up continually, continually with dividing things. And I liked what you said at the beginning about that we're always trying to put things in a box, like that's that, that's this, that's me, that's that. And it's a wonderful time now of letting go of that, clinging and clutching to things all the time,
Right.
And
death is such a perfect metaphor. I mean, me too. It's like my mother died 4 months ago.
Oh.
And, watching her go through it. And, for months before that, she had been diminishing. She'd had a couple strokes. After this last stroke, she couldn't speak. Just, moans and groans and sounds. And, it was just so painful watching. And, the memories I had of her as this beautiful, creative, loving, beautiful woman. And then it's like, losing it. And then my identity, my memory was how I knew her in the past. And it was very hard for me to see her in the state that she was in, see her going through the apparent pain, the suffering. And it's my perception of it that, of course, is pain and suffering. But it was like a structuring of her entire identity, where the caterpillar is letting go of itself. And then, I was with her when she took her last breath. And it was quite fascinating. It's like somehow, it's like, oh, who's this now? That's not my mother. And in that moment, it's like I could see how death is an illusion. Yes, the body dies, the identity goes, the roles fall away. What's left? And then I'm remembering some research that I'd followed some time ago of what happens at the moment of death. The heart stops, and the heart is the locus of the entire Merkaba, or the light body, the multidimensional bodies that form around the heart. It's an energetic matrix that links the physical, etheric, mental, emotional, and causal bodies. And so in the moment that the heart stops, this Merkaba collapses, or the link to the physical body breaks down. And then what happens is the pineal gland releases DMT. And that DMT then is what opens up the channel for the soul to de-link from the physical body, eventually from the etheric body as well. And then it's like the personality structure until finally it's simply pure consciousness. In pure consciousness that's still identified as a flame, a spark that we know as the soul, that's still, considered human, but not identified with physical form and third dimensional reality. So this perhaps is what we're going through collectively as a planetary consciousness, as a human species. So, in the days that followed after my mom died, for 40 days after, I would just sit in a room. I never left the house. I would just sit in a room, just meditate, just follow her. Where is she? And, so much came up for me. There was like a reorientation of my entire life in relationship to her. Until at the end of that, it was like I was reborn. And I was witnessing my mother passing through all the different bardos that she had to go through as she collectively faced her personal demons. We all do. Until, she found her way into this beautiful space of unity and innocence and joy. And it was so gratifying to see that unfold. And I feel like, yes, we are going through our bardos right now. Geophysical events, economic breakdown, the collapse of our entire monetary system. Everything is collapsing around us. I know what's happening in the UK right now. All these, the Queen passing, and then this, I don't know what adjectives to use for King Charles.
Adjectives.
That, in my mind, a very odious character who's been involved with World Economic Forum and with all kinds of satanic activities. And then, this is a consciousness that has always been there amongst the elite, and it's always been part of the system of control that's been brewing for a long time. Whether we call it the Cabal or the Illuminati or the Deep State or whatever, but this has been a system that has been striving to cover up and control our human spirit.
Maybe for thousands of years,
for
like
thousands
even
of
Jesus'
years.
time, if Jesus was
way
here.
back, Babylon, Sumeria, Enki, Enlil, all that stuff. But it cannot, that consciousness cannot be covered up any longer. It's like now the awakening, as we pass from one age to another, as we move through this death into the space of rebirth, as we pass through the bardos, the lower astral worlds, which are all, showing up around us collectively, all the wars, what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, my position on this war is probably very different from what a lot of people who are only exposed to the mainstream media might think. I think this is the last battle, and it's not a battle between Russia and Ukraine. It's a battle between, well, on one level, it's between the powers that represent the new world, the awakened consciousness, and those that are holding us in repression and imbalance, which, this whole imperialistic, neo-colonial structure for a very, very long time. And then something emerging. It's like, Putin and Xi talk about the fair world order, which is a whole different story. The BRICS economic system, which is a multipolar world. It's not about unipolar hierarchy anymore. It's not about one superpower deciding it's going to be the policeman of the world and bossing everybody else around. It's not NATO that's basically designed to rip people's hearts out under the guise of prosperity or the reset or whatever they want, whatever phrase they use. That seems to be popular. The whole, I mean, you can go through different aspects of this, but ultimately, it's like this last battle is a battle for the human spirit. And it doesn't matter, what the details are, because, we all have our stories or our ways of relating to the story. Some of it may be accurate, some of it may not. Some of it is based on what you read or hear from other people. What is your own experience of it? And ultimately what it comes to is that, it's like breaking out of all of our ideas, perceptions, and realities altogether. And that's what the gift of COVID has been. About 10 years ago, I went through a 21-day process sitting in a dark room with no with no stimulation of any kind through the senses. And the mind went crazy. As I'm sure, we're all going through right now. When you're sitting locked up in your home, no place to go, ordered not to meet with people who are the closest to you, not to travel, not to do what's fulfilling for your life, we go crazy. The collective mind goes crazy. And then through that, from the deepest unconscious space within us, the inconscient, as Sri Aurobindo would call that, this is the womb of creation, and something awakens from there. And it's not from trying, it's not through understanding, it's just despite everything that we think we know about anything, this is the evolution. This is where the new human species, or the butterfly, the human butterfly, emerges from. From the heart of darkness, from the center of the mush, this new human species awakes. So this is what I see, in the next few years. And that's what gives me hope. This, I think, is the hope sitting in the bottom of Pandora's box. And now we open the box once again to rediscover this hope. And it's not hopium, it's not copium, it's none of those wishful, Pollyannic games. It's really stepping into the mystery, dissolving, allowing, surrendering to this huge ocean that's seeking to embody itself now through us. And once we align with that, it's joyful. Until we do, it's fearful. And I think that's where we are at. We're at this crossroads right now.
Well said. Lovely, Kiara. Beautifully put. Beautifully put. And I just want to go back to the dying thing a minute, because because something crossed my mind, and I just wanted to put this out to people who know about these things as well, because it's an interesting point, I think. When my father died, and my mother died, and my auntie died, I was with them both. And most times when someone goes into the last moments of death, and I was going to ask you this about your mother, they start doing heavy breathing. Did she do that? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, she was heavy, and also like they call it the death rattle.
Yes.
It's like it's like the lungs are somehow filling with fluid, and so it's harder and harder to breathe.
Right.
And there's that sound that.
Yeah. What my dog also did it in my arms when she died many years ago. She's breathing. And it reminded me when I went through that with my father and my auntie, it reminded me of this Stan Groff, his work with allotropic breathing, right?
Yeah.
And when you talked about leaving the spacesuit, it just reminded me of that, because what Stan Groff used to do was host groups, and he'd have people just breathing. And if you keep doing it, I've never done that actual allotropic breathing. You'd see the group going into another state of consciousness, and then
Yeah.
they'd start twitching, and he'd have to sometimes, and they'd leave their bodies as such, or go into another state of consciousness, another realm, and which a lot of them said was out of their body experience. Sometimes Stan, I remember him squeezing someone's shoulder to actually bring them back because they were shaking. But my point is this: I've often wondered that one of the magical parts of just before we die, maybe the body brings on that allotropic breathing. And the thought that came into my mind when I was with my father was to get him into that state like the Stanley Groff thing used to do, and then, like you said about the DMT, to bounce you out of your spacesuit. Possibly. I just wondered about that. But I loved what you said about the DMT.
Yeah. Well, breath is key. Breath is spirit in many languages. And I think that's the key. It's like, it's so simple. It's right with us all the time. And it's such a symbolic act, expiration and inspiration, and breathing in, breathing out. We do it every moment of our life, but to do it consciously. And then with holotropic breathwork and other forms of breathwork, the idea is to keep it circular and conscious. So breathing in a circle, coming back out in a circle. It's like, and being conscious. And it's a little stronger than usual, so that you get this super oxygenation, and that awakens the cells, that opens up the meridians, it opens up the endocrine system. You begin to access more of that DMT naturally. And then that becomes a habit. There was a time I was doing this every day for a while. And I've done this with groups of people, 100, 200 people at a time. And then collectively, it's like you're entering into this super sensory trance. And the channels just open up, the pathways between the worlds, the veils just dissolve. And people have amazing experiences, which, because the body, when it's what we do with trauma in our lives, we hold it as stress in the body, as patterns of, what do they call it? There's a name for it. Or holding patterns. And the breath, as you start breathing consciously and circularly, it starts to break through those patterns. And then it releases all the pent-up layers of density and vibrational density that's held us in third-dimensional illusion. And then naturally, the veils open up. You start to experience other worlds, other beings, other aspects of yourself. We are living in multidimensional realities. We're not just living in one world. We think we do because our mind is only capable of, it's like what does Joseph Chilton Pierce call it? Reality reducing valve. And so it's like we're reducing this amazing spectrum of reality and perception into this tiny, through this tiny little funnel into something that the human brain can process, which is a tiny fraction of totality. And now imagine that tiny fraction of totality being blown away. It's like that movie Lucy. I don't know if
I haven't seen that movie. No,
it's an amazing movie.
The
gist of it is that this woman, most of us maybe experience 5% of our functionality, the brain functions, and through whatever. I won't go into the story, but she starts using 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 80, 100% of her brain. And what happens in consequence? And at the end of it, there's no Lucy in terms of physical identity. And she is just simply identified with all there is, able to communicate through anything and everything to anyone, anywhere. So it's like, that distinct center of identity that we call human is no longer relegated to this little what did you call it, spacesuit or flesh suit of the body. It's the locus of our identity is everywhere now. And this is what's happening. I think the breath starts to open up those channels, and then any kind of conscious meditation practice does that. But even more than that, I think what's happening now is very spontaneous. As people go through these stresses of life, which in previous ages would have been very disruptive. Yes, of course, it's disruptive, but at the same time, it also pushes us through the veil in a way that we may not have expected. And people are experiencing that more and more. It's like somehow it's like in the midst of all the despair, oh, why am I feeling so much joy? Why am I feeling so hopeful? You know, my dreams are saying things. I've these extraordinary peak experiences that are, you know, showing me a world that's much bigger than my perceptions at the moment. And this is happening more and more to people everywhere. People who have never done any searching or meditation or even religious practices, because this is like a time.
It's
and
time.
so this is the cocooning. There's no avoiding it.
People come in and speak to me, and they actually say it. They say, I've never felt like this. I feel something's different, something's changing. I don't feel right, you know. And I think that's quite a positive thing, you know. It's like, well, we don't want to stay the same. We don't want to. It's like we're like, without being patronizing, we're just like morons shuffling around a room, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to raise our consciousness, and you know, in the Indian traditions, you know, I don't know if this is true, but I used to read a lot about Ram Dass and that, and you know, sometimes they'd hit you with the guru would hit you with a stick, right?
Right, to wake up.
Wake up, you know. And, I think, you know, that can happen in painful situations or stressful situations, or like you said, being with someone who's dying. Well, my God, what an awakening that was, being with my father when he was dying. It was the same, you know, and like you said, suddenly they're gone. And it's like, wow, you know, and it's like, wow, it's like, wow, well, you know, and then I remember when my mother died, she died suddenly. We found her on the floor. And she just died. I was only speaking to her moments before, and and suddenly an ambulance drove past me. I was on, and then what's that? And it was outside her house. I thought, oh, it can't be my mother. I just been speaking to her. Went in. My stepfather's crying and shaking, and it's your mother, and she's gone. She had an aneurysm. Boom, gone.
Wow.
So, but that shock, you know. And I'd had quite a bit to drink, so I'd never been sobered up as quickly as that. But the days after that and the moments after that, I was seeing the world through another lens, you know. That shock. I was seeing the leaves move on the trees more and feeling the wind on my face, and I was looking with other humans with a love again, like they must have lost someone. So it cracks your heart open, you know.
Absolutely.
Breaks your heart open again. So these shocks can be good for things like that, you know. And when I did ayahuasca, it was a very similar thing. It was like, I did a lot of drugs when I was younger, LSD and everything. And once you took it, that was it. You were in, you couldn't get out. And if you resisted, it would turn into hell. So, you know, it was like, I wouldn't want to do it all again. But ayahuasca, I don't advise everybody to do ayahuasca because it's, you know, it's got to be under the right conditions. But for me, it was that. I wanted a death of the self, actually, at that point, a couple of years ago, a few years ago. I needed a death. I wanted to come off the coffee. I wanted to stop drinking booze, you know. I started having a quick look at porn again and things. It was like I could feel myself falling, you know. So I knew I needed something drastic, you know, and it was drastic. And sure enough, my goodness, that next morning, it was like I had died, really, but I was reborn, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't drink coffee or booze or do anything. 9 months, I wouldn't have even dreamt of having a drink or a cup of coffee even. So I felt so pure
Mm.
because it's almost like I was stripped to the bone, you know, like a death, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that's the key though, because you were ready for it. You were open to it.
I
And I think
wanted
what
it. I
happens
wanted
with
it.
a lot of people, like whether it's with ayahuasca or other psychedelics or LSD, or street drugs, people are um, still in escape mode. Rather than being willing to face the shadow, they're covering it up even more so by trying to run away from themselves into something that takes away what they imagine as the pain of the moment. And that creates a split. And that's, when you say that you don't always recommend ayahuasca to people, it's because of that. It's when we go into something, and, it's a powerful medicine. And in the right setting, with the right guide and with the right intention, it can be beautiful as a way of bypassing this distortion that we have created for ourselves and dissolving the veils to reality. And then we listen to the voice of nature. We listen to the multidimensional universe singing back to us. But if we don't do that consciously and willingly, with pure intent of surrender to that, then there's this conflict. It's like, you fight it. I'm still attached to the old way. I'm attached to how it used to be. And fear comes up. Where am I going? What's happening? I don't want to surrender because I can't trust what I could be surrendering to. And then it creates, all this tortured um, warfare that sometimes is conscious, most often not. And we come out of that experience feeling more split. But at the same time, I think if we go into it consciously in the right way, like the first time I did ayahuasca was with the shaman, and he went around the room and we were doing a circle, and he was asking people, what's your intention? And I thought about it for a moment. I'd been reading Carlos Castaneda at that time. And I said, okay, I want the shaman's death. And he said, what? Are you sure? Do you know what you're asking for? And I said, yeah, I didn't. I didn't know what I was asking for. But, that was the biggest, for an entire month afterwards, I was going through so much. It was such a deep shadow work. At the end of that, yes, I was reborn. I was in a space of total surrender to something beyond. But the way through was dark and dangerous, dismal and devastating. And I wouldn't recommend that to anyone without proper guidance and proper intention.
a shamaness that I was working with in Cornwall. When I told her I was going to do it, she was very concerned. She said it can open portals. Other energies can come in and you can be attacked. She said it's very risky. And actually, what the truth of what happened was that they started it at 12 o'clock at night, and I asked the shamans were there actually. It was good to have their guidance. The people who actually grew it in Peru,
Yeah.
But he said, "Don't resist. Whatever you do, don't resist." Yeah. And
Right.
I went through the whole thing, and then in the morning, I felt like I wanted to pull out of the experience, and it was very difficult to pull out, and I had quite a battle. But it did what I needed it to do, was to literally take those addictions away, and it was like a miraculous thing for that. And I also opened my heart again. The first thing I did was phone my loved one and said, "Oh, look, I'm sorry, I loved you enough," and blah blah blah. But then, the things that will creep in with the stress of life again after that. But no, I wouldn't say it's a quick fix. It's very, very risky. There's that other one with a frog spit, isn't there? Called
Oh yeah, Bufo.
Is it?
Or ibogaine, that's another one.
Is
Yeah.
it ibogaine or something? There's a couple of different ones. That's only a
Mm.
quick one. That's not an all-nighter. That's like just an hour or
Yeah, I think
so.
that's bufo.
Is it? Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just pure DMT.
I haven't done that, you know.
Mm.
But you know, what's your feelings about you know, smoking ganja? And I don't smoke ganja myself, but
Mm.
a lot of people do. What's your thoughts on that? I suppose the same thing. How you use the
Yeah, well,
medicine, is it really?
I think the same thing. It's like if you become dependent on anything,
Mm,
then it can bust you.
yeah.
Because then it's not, you know, what we're talking about is really purifying the nadis.
Mm,
These are the internal channels, the extra meridians or the meridians that go beyond the physical body into the etheric, into the mental, causal, you know, multidimensional realms. And this is very, very subtle. And it requires very clear intention. It requires effort, you know, in terms of, you know, because when you're doing some kind of external plant medicine or psychedelic, it's not about effort. It's like all you're doing is just, um, you know, with the right intention, it can be beautiful and powerful. But to integrate that afterwards into your daily life takes effort.
mm, yeah.
And
Yeah.
most people, what happens is, okay, you have an experience, maybe a peak experience, and then you get attached to that, and you want to do it again because you can't really integrate the rest of your life around it, and so
So
that becomes a fix.
someone
And
gave me some marijuana a few years ago now, a couple of years ago. Oh, I hadn't done it for years and years. I went up on my own in a little car park. And I had a little puff, you know, and
yeah,
I thought I can't even remember what this stuff is like. So I used to smoke a lot of it when I was younger, you know, hell of a lot. And then I thought it's not doing anything. Then all of a sudden it was like, oh yes, I remember. And it was like, oh God. And I just rolled my seat back and I thought, oh, and I did. I felt my heart opening, and I thought, oh God, it was almost like, oh, I feel better, you know. I feel
yeah,
better. Well, maybe heroin's like that. I've never tried heroin, but and I thought, oh, that really feels really nice. And then later on, I had to come back down and see my family, and I felt a bit paranoid. Then, you know, there was all
yeah.
the feelings of paranoia, and then, but then I was having a little puff every night, and I thought, oh, I can't do this now. I think it was
Yeah.
Ramdas once
Well,
said that.
Jason, I
Go on.
think a lot of this in most of the older cultures, in indigenous cultures or tribal cultures, you know, this was a very organic thing in relationship with the web of life
Yeah.
around. So you're connecting with plant medicines because you're able to connect with nature as a relationship with life. You know, so this was not about a personal quest. It wasn't about putting yourself above nature
Yeah.
or somehow substituting for your own inadequacies
Mm,
through something. It was about engaging with this web of life. It was
mm,
about honoring the goddess. It
mm.
was about reflecting the universe that you're part of as something beautiful and divine. So it was with a different, and then, you know, you didn't need that because you saw that everywhere around you.
You were
So
in
you
that
did
state
some,
anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So if it was peyote or
Yeah.
San Pedro, ayahuasca, whatever, whatever was local, or ganja, and wherever that was available, it was like when you were looking for something special, when you were looking for information or healing or knowledge that was meant to serve the tribe or the culture, to bring forth information that was time to be revealed. You know, like the book of, you know, all the Revelation scriptures. Then it was something that was useful in that context, but never as something that was uh, trying to
Not recreational for fun, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
not, yeah, it wasn't recreational.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I think if we
Beautiful.
can go back to that,
Mm,
because our culture, especially in the Western world, well, actually, it's everywhere now. You know, look at India; it's taken on all the habits of the Western world and
that's it.
lost its own identity.
Are they drinking a lot there?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but it's based on a sense of desperation,
Yeah. Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on a feeling of being isolated, lost, and needing to cope with reality in the only way that they can figure out. And for young people especially, it's like the world that's being offered to them is so brutal. This is my only escape, is my solace from all this brutality. It's not it's what the elders have handed down to me. In the indigenous cultures, what the elders handed to you was a world of balance. Here, what the elders hand down to the new generation is a world that's totally out of balance. How do they cope with it? So this is why knowledge, tempered with wisdom, tempered with self-realization, is so important. It's like, yeah, the bigger picture, deeper perspective on what's happening. So you see the world around you. You see all the crazy stuff happening with wars and with oppression, with, the agendas of the World Economic Forum, Agenda 20, whatever, but not to be caught up in that, because you see the bigger picture. You see that this is simply a slice of reality that has its own purpose. And this purpose is to basically create enough contrast that we're going to choose to move out of. That's what it takes to become the butterfly, being pressed on all sides. And then somehow a choice gets made from a place that's not through the human self. But even to go beyond the personal, we're talking about what happens at death, right? So the Merkaba, which is centered around the heart, it's a magnetic field. So when the individual dies to the physical body, the DMT activates so that the soul can then enter into its multidimensionality or reconnect with this multidimensionality. Now, what's happening collectively right now is we're going through a huge magnetic shift. The magnetic field of the Earth is collapsing exponentially. The directionality, the polar axis, is shifting very strongly. And a combination of this, physicists are talking about an eventual magnetic reversal or excursion, but the entire polarity of the magnetic poles shifts or reverses. And when that happens, imagine that you talked about the Merkaba collapsing, and it's related to the magnetic field. If the magnetic field collapses, then it's like everyone on this planet, or every sentient being on this planet, not just humans, activates DMT. So all mammals have the same endocrine system, the pineal gland, activating DMT within the pineal gland. So imagine the entire planet, or all sentient beings, on ayahuasca at the same time, in a conscious way, being directed by the soul of the earth, by the soul of the universe. Imagine that. That's what it takes to actually move through this passageway into the butterfly stage. That's what it takes to emerge as a new species of humanity, or as the new species of Gaia. In my books, Gaia Luminous and Homo Luminous, it's an exploration of these possibilities. What does the new human look like? What does the new planet, a new planetary consciousness,
Your books, right?
look like? Yeah.
Yeah. What would just tell
Actually,
people?
both of them were written since I met you, so I haven't talked about that much
No.
with you.
What were they called again?
Gaia Luminous,
Yeah,
and Homo Luminous. Homo Luminous is the Inca term for the new human, the new species that's emerging.
and where can people find them? That's on your website, right?
Yeah, or just go to Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah. Oh man, beautiful, beautiful. It's certainly an amazing time, isn't it? And I often wonder what the world would be like tomorrow morning if everyone did ayahuasca tonight. There'd be some people freaking out. I know, wouldn't be ready for it, but my God.
Well, the thing is, what happens when when it's done in a way that's functional, there's no fear. Because the moment you enter into, once the channels are open and you are experiencing that awakening of soul or the embodiment of soul, there cannot be fear associated with it. It's like fear only comes up when you're identified as the personal self. And then you're lost in this great big universe where you don't have a role to play or place to be. But then once you're multidimensional, once you experience that totality as part of your being, so the first moments of this shift, the magnetic reversal or whatever it may be, there might be fear. People feel disoriented. There might be some panic, or there may be panic leading up to this. But when you're actually in that passageway, and the ancients refer to this as the 3 days of darkness. And who knows, this could be a literal 3 days, because that's what it takes for the Earth to actually switch to its new position, or the magnetic poles. I'm not talking about physical, geographical poles. I'm talking about a magnetic pole shift. So this period of time that is going through this reversal or excursion process until it finds this new balance, it's like being on ayahuasca. You have access to other realities that are far beyond the lower astral realms, far beyond the bardo states that we associate with death in the beginning. Now we are able to actually access the embodiment of the soul, where the physical body, when the magnetic reversal is completed, the soul has an opportunity to embody itself in a way it never before experienced. And this happens collectively, and it happens in a short period of time. And there's probably other things associated with it also in terms of what physical changes or magnetic or stellar, increase of cosmic reactivity, increase of solar winds and, information. Because these solar winds are actually, when you're going beyond the physical interpretation, the sun is basically the higher self of the earth. The sun holds packets of intention or memory that when we are ready for it, can be received as packets of new possibilities for evolution. The galactic center every 12,000 years emits this powerful wave of light which passes through the entire Milky Way. And as it crosses through our, the barriers connecting our sun to intergalactic space, it again brings in certain information, galactic information. So it's like the central star of a galaxy is like the higher self of our sun. So it's like that's the hierarchy. And we are connected to the galactic center as the nervous system of this planet, able to access these powerful forces, evolutionary forces. And the role of the nervous system is to be able to communicate, to access, to be able to bridge. And that's our role as humans on this earth. We're here to bridge into this galactic field, to open to new evolutionary waves. And when the time is right, activate them. So we've been waiting for this right timing. It's like a lot of the despair I think a lot of people feel is because they know, they see, they feel something that is to come, but it's not here yet. And the question is when is it happening? When is it coming? That's why all these dates get thrown out, but in the right time, whenever that is. And I think it could be very soon, in fact.
I was just talking to Dr. Tess Laurie earlier on, and she was talking about these, not like we're talking so much, but same kind of thing about that feeling people have gotten. She's talking about births when they begin. you've
Mm.
got to let go, you know. It's almost like you
Yeah.
can't, a bit like the ayahuasca, you can't hold on because this once this starts, that's it.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful metaphor. But hey, Kiara, it's great speaking to you, man. And well, we've run out of time, I'm afraid. But I want to ask you before we go. It's been great to speak to you. Um, can you do a little sort of something for people who might be listening to this and struggling with their minds and the noisiness of their minds and the frustration and maybe a bit of despair and uncertainty and agitation? Can you do a little thing or a little sort of meditation or
Sure.
something?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do a quick meditation to basically create a bridge. Yeah. So I won't explain it. I'll just get right into the meditation and people can follow along. This is from the Inca tradition.
Eyes closed or open?
Eyes closed, sure. That helps. All right, so let's do this. Just make yourself comfortable. Take some deep breaths and keep your spine erect so you can create a vertical bridge between the worlds. Keep your breath circular. And now imagine a bubble of light surrounding the physical body, extending out maybe 6 feet if you're in England, or 2 meters if you're in the rest of Europe. And this bubble or luminous egg, as the shamans refer to, is the complexity. It's beautiful fabric, fibers just interpenetrating and luminous light fields linking up with each other that comprises our lower bodies. So it includes the physical body, also the etheric body, and the emotional and mental bodies. So this is what gives us a sense of human personality. And it's all held within this bubble of light. It's a field of interpenetrating substance. And those with etheric vision or clairvoyant vision can actually see this. And if you can't see it, imagine it. Now imagine that over the top of this bubble, there's a window. So it's like a circular window, like if you're like a skylight, like the skylight of a yurt. And you open this window now as wide as you can. So this window is about 6 feet or 2 meters above the top of your head. You open this as wide as you can, just with your intention. And the moment you do that, there's this tremendous force of light that starts to pour in from across the universe. The Incas refer to this as Sami, and it's electrical in nature. Very vitalizing and stimulating, very high frequency, and it's pouring in like a waterfall. So imagine yourself standing under this powerful, brilliant white waterfall of light. And it passes through your physical body, it passes through all these bodies comprising the bubble and down into the earth. It's a continuous flow. And you're not doing anything, no effort, just keeping that window open as wide as you can. So just sit with that for a couple minutes. So it's a continuous downward flow of Sami, universal life force. And this is electrical in nature. So there's electrical and magnetic forces that create all existence. So this is the foundation of our universe. It's an electromagnetic universe. Where there's electricity, these filaments of light move across the galaxies to create what's known as plasma. This is the fifth state of matter. Basically, ionized elements. When these ionized elements are condensed through magnetic fields, it creates matter. So our lower bodies are comprised of these electrical forces interacting with magnetic forces, and they're simultaneous. Now, one thing that the Incas also say is that anytime energy moves in one direction, there's a response in the other direction. When electrical forces move downwards from the galactic center down to the Earth, there's an automatic response from the Earth, from the intelligence, from the consciousness of the Earth. They also refer to this as Sami, but this is a magnetic force now. So imagine now that as this electrical force continues to flow down, it's met by this magnetic force rising up from the Earth in response to this electrical force. It rises up through our feet, up through our physical, etheric, emotional, mental bodies, through the entire bubble, back through the window up to the sky. And this magnetic force feels very nurturing and warm, loving, comforting, healing. This is the gift of Mother Earth. Every moment that we're here on this earth, we're receiving waves of this love, this healing light, this magnetic force. If the window is closed, that turns off this flow in both directions. So the reason we're opening this window consciously through intention is to enable this flow downwards as well as upwards. The electrical force from across the galaxies towards the Earth, then from the Earth back to the heart of the universe. So feel how this magnetic force feels like. It's moving through every cell of the body. As the electrical force moves down, it starts to clear out old conditioning, fear, the trauma that we've held in the memory of the cells. And this magnetic force, as it moves up, starts to replenish those cells with healing, with light, with beauty, with love. And this happens by itself. You're not doing anything. The mind isn't involved in this at all. All you're doing is keeping that window open. And as these two streams of light, electrical and magnetic, interact with each other, eventually what happens, you feel this expansion taking place. This bubble itself begins to expand further and further and further out. And now it's entering into the fifth body, what's known as the Anandamaya Kosha, the causal body of the realm of soul. From here, you're able to connect with the soul of the earth, the soul of the entire solar system, our galaxy, multi-dimensional universes, the totality of the universal self. So you can continue, feel yourself just expanding out as far as you wish to go. At first, maybe not so far out, but just notice how that feels. How does it feel to dissolve the identity of the limited human self? How does it feel to let go of the frantic monkey mind that's constantly trying to push us around, keep us stuck in patterns of fear, limitation, conditioning? How does it feel to enter into the stillness and silence, this peace that passes understanding? How does it feel to be at one with the earth, with all life, across the earth, out into the noosphere, out across the solar system, and simultaneously also deeper and deeper within our own bodies, into our cells, into the microcosm of the universe that we carry within us. So these words, let them just be a guide. Don't get stuck with the words. Just let the experience take over. It's a process of birthing. It's like the labor that a woman goes through. The intensity and the force, and then finally the newness of life, the peace, the joy. And know that this is something that you can do anytime you wish. And the moment you do so, it opens up the door, it opens up that window. So many worlds of experience. And this is literally what people are looking for. All of us, as we go exploring through life, searching and seeking for that which outside of us can provide us with meaning, hope, sense of purpose. We discover that we are not separate from anything, as within, so without, as above, so below. We become the microcosm of an entire universe. We are that. I am that. I am. Let that knowing, let that presence resonate through every cell of your being. So now we are coming close to the end of our time together, but if you're sitting at home watching or listening, just continue in this space as long as you wish. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Kiara. That was very lovely, yeah?
Beautiful. Thank
Very,
you, Jason.
very beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm sure people can use that and play it again at home. It was very nice. I really enjoyed it, you know. Thank you so much. And I'll just say I love you and goodbye, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
And to anyone else who's still there, listen, if you want to know more about all this stuff, go to kiarawindrider.net and go there and look at Kiara's very important work to help humanity through that sticky mush and into the wonderful butterflies that we are. Yeah, that's all.
Check out my YouTube channel, Kiara Windrider.
Oh yeah.
Kiara is one word.
I'll put that
my
underneath.
Facebook page, also Kiara Space Windrider.
I'll put those underneath the show underneath this on the right. And if you go down there, everybody, you can find those links there and get Kiara's books as well. And I want to say thanks, Kiara, for everything you're doing for people. Your selfless devotion to helping people and helping people find a better life, and for people who haven't been born yet, also for doing your bit to transmute this world into the one we know is waiting there within the womb of possibility to be born, which is being born right now. Nothing's going to stop it, right?
Not anymore.
Bless you, Kiara, right? Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bless you. Thank you.
See you again soon.
For sure.
There goes Kiara Windrider, everybody. Yeah, don't forget, you go and you find his work. He's an amazing man. God bless you, Kiara. And that was great. I really enjoyed that meditation there. It was really lovely. I feel much better for it. And it's wonderful to have a guided meditation like that from someone who knows what he's talking about, and who has done a lot of work with people along those lines. Yeah. And nothing really much else to say. What else was it? Oh, I think I had Tess Laurie on earlier on, Dr. Tess Laurie. That will be going up soon on my show, and then followed by my lovely talk with Kiara Windrider, just to do a bit of advertising, get my book, The Emergency Transformation of Human Beings. I talk in there a lot about this kind of thing. There we are. I just opened the page to remembering ourselves, finding peace individually, getting a taste of ourselves again, reflections in the mirror. Our spiritual development comes first, changing our direction from away from ourselves to toward, just being and honoring who we are, returning to ourselves, the sacred marriage, rebalancing our male and female strands, doing nothing reconnects us, changing and refining our frequency, releasing ourselves from our struggle, releasing ourselves from our own torture, stuck in revolving doors, the web of traps that enslave us. So in this book, I talk a lot about this kind of thing, about the end of an era of suffering and struggle, learning the dance of life. So ending the war with ourselves. So I talk a lot about it in there. Also, I've got to say, if you want to get toxins out of your body, this is the product to use. It's Clean Slate, Root Clean Slate, and they've got other products there. You can find that under the links on the show with all Kiara's links. And I'm an affiliate for the company. And they're fantastic, you know, and it definitely helps the body naturally wipe out toxins. And we need that in these times of great transformation. We need to actually become clearer and cleanse ourselves as best we can, because my goodness, there is a great transmutation going on. Yeah. Also go to Clive de Carl's work. I'm also an affiliate for Clive. It won't cost you any more by getting the products with the link under the show here to the Roots products and to Clive de Carl's amazing nutraceuticals, and he's got amazing products on there. It won't cost you any more by using the links. It'll cost you the same as if you go there on your own. But what it will do is give me a little commission that they give me for advertising for them, and I wouldn't advertise for them if I didn't believe it. They're wonderful products, if you want to help me with my show, then get some products there, or go to Patreon to my page. People keep telling me I've got to keep saying that. Buy me a cup of coffee a week, 2 quick cup of coffee a week, or a coffee a month. And if you can't spare any money, don't get me anything. Okay, that's very important to me. All right, I always say that. So KiaraWindrider.net. Go there, go to his YouTube page, go to his Facebook page. All the links will be under the show. What a dear, wonderful man that is. A special being on the planet who is dedicated to helping other people. So that's all from me for now. I think we've got Patrick Henningsen on the show also this week, or the beginning of next week. 21st Century Wire. He's a host down at UK Column with Brian Gerrish and Mike Robinson and all the other guys down there. Great people to go and check in with, UK Column. And I just want to say thank you all for your support for my work. Thank you all for your love that you send me, and for your great comments that you send me. And thanks for people for coming in my gallery and saying hello to me. All right. And bless you all. Stay strong. Love you all dearly. Take care. Look after yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves. Bye-bye.